Hello and welcome to Inside Today. I am Jumai Manson. Today on the program, our focus will be on the military camouflage, tax of enforcing ban on unauthorized use. Stay tuned, the program continues shortly. Don't go anywhere. Okay, quickly bring me back. The ban on the unauthorized use of military camouflage in Nigeria is a crucial measure taken by the government to address various security, legal and social concerns associated with the misuse of military attire. The ban aims to prevent individuals or groups from impersonating military personnel or using military camouflage for unauthorized purposes, such as committing crimes, instigating violence. There are laws that govern the use of military camouflage. This is typically grounded in existing laws of the regulations that govern the use of military uniforms in senior in Nigeria. Violating this ban may constitute a criminal offense. In the aspect of protecting military integrity, the enforcement of the ban helps maintain the reputation and integrity of the military by ensuring that the military uniforms are reserved for authorized personnel and official duties only. And I am being joined by Mr. Kelvin Prince Fineface. He is a security expert. Are you with me, Mr. Kelvin? Are you here?
Good afternoon. How are you? It's
I'm
actually Prince
fine.
Kevin Fineface.
I am
Prince
fine.
is a title. It's not a name, so it's Prince
Oh,
Kevin Fineface.
okay. Prince Kelvin Fineface, how are you doing today? Thank you for being
Fine,
available on the
thank you.
program today. All right. Well, we
My
are
pleasure.
looking at, like I said, this very sensitive issue when it comes to the unauthorized use of the camouflage. Now, what are the reasons behind the ban on the unauthorized use of military camouflage in Nigeria? Just give us an insight.
Well, if Nigeria has actually a peculiar situation where the abuse of those insignias and all those other things is very common. In a civilized society, it shouldn't be a problem. But we have a situation where because people oftentimes wear military camouflage, use them for some nefarious activities, sometimes a make-believe thing. And it's also as a result of the abuse by those who are supposed to have known better. What do I mean by abuse? If you notice, if in the past few years, you'll find military personnel been, harassing the public at different times, using their uniforms to harass the public. People saw that growing up. Psychologically, it's more like an innate behavior that if somebody is wearing a military camouflage, then they can get away with whatever he does. If you know that's what's been happening. I grew up seeing that where somebody goes with his military uniform and claims to be who is not. In some cases, goes and beat up somebody or buys, pick up other person's merchandise and not pay for it because the person is wearing military uniform or breaks the law, goes against traffic because of that. So people saw that as a way to get away with situations, especially how we find ourselves in this country. So all they simply need to do was to wear the camouflage and go to the filling station to buy fuel if there's a lot of fuel queues. They go with the military camouflage. If they want to get into places where they need to have easy access, they go with military camouflage. So it was really helpful. But now criminals saw the window of opportunity. Or if this is working for these people like this, then we can use it. So in some cases, those who get into kidnapping wear the same camouflage, acting like military persons, so as to get easy access without being disturbed by security personnel, maybe especially the police on the way. And so if we don't have those other excesses from the military organizations, right, the public wouldn't have had the confidence. Those criminals in the public would have had the confidence to do what they've done with military camouflage.
Oh, all right, Prince. Now, you mentioned impersonation when you were talking about the question I asked previously. Now, sometimes when these criminal elements are being caught, they always say they're impersonating a particular senior officer or a senior police security agent. Now, we've never heard that for wearing that uniform, the person is being persecuted. We've not seen that. I've never heard. I've only seen impersonation, but wearing the uniform at hand, isn't there supposed to be like a particular sanction on that on its own, aside the impersonation charges against an individual who commits this sort of issue when it comes to criminality in the society?
Yeah, there's supposed to be sanctions. I mean, the law is actually very clear. There are provisions for it. Um, for impersonation, there are provisions for it. Ordinarily, wearing the military camouflage shouldn't be an impersonation, except of course it is carried out in an act where someone acted like a police officer or a military officer because he's wearing that uniform. But because we have a peculiarity, we've seen where the criminals, terrorists, the so-called in quote bandits or the genocidal groups who goes around to maim, kill, destroy villages and communities and people, we've seen that they're using same military camouflage to carry out those activities. So it now lays on the agencies of government responsible to apprehend and prosecute those persons responsible for such acts. But you ask that question, is there another that we can do if somebody wears that? The question is that, what do you really take? In some cases, we've seen a case where
All right, I think we're having some network hitches there, but I'm sure.
some of
Prince,
those
are you
guys,
good? Okay.
are you
Go
there?
ahead.
Are you
Go
there?
ahead. Yes, go
Okay.
ahead,
We
please.
see where, some persons were arrested with military camo and with weapons, AK-47, and because of their ethnic and religious, background, the case didn't go far. Nothing really happened after the initial arrest. So Nigeria as a country is bedeviled with ethno-religious sentiments. And there's a lopsided approach in carrying out security um, architecture in apprehending, prosecuting, and imprisonment. There's a whole lot of sentiment that comes with it. Until we have a very holistic approach where no sentiment will be used to met out. So there will be fairness, there will be justice, there will be equality, and there will be equity in the approach of government. Until we get to that stage, it will be difficult to truly holistically carry out this action. But for now, pronouncements have been made. So it means that if military officers and men see anybody with military camo, they will want to question to know if you can identify yourself. When you can't identify yourself, then of course you can be apprehended and be prosecuted. I'll give you a scenario. There was a time I had this military camo, vest was given to me, and I was walking with it on the road in my neighborhood, and some guards who were guarding the major general in my neighborhood accosted me like to know who I was. I identified myself. I was forced to pull off that vest
Oh,
on
wow.
me on the road. And I'm like, now I have a security background. I'm supposed to, those guys who did that thing actually found my video. It was something that almost caused a big fight because, I mean, they had to call their superior, a captain, to come and all of this. So, look, this was given to me in the course of my training for explosive training, but they didn't want to listen, because then the chief of naval army staff had also made the pronouncement. This was like about 7 years ago, you know. To some degree, I kind of respected the fact that it was that overzealous. That, okay, I've identified myself. There should have been that cordiality, that camaraderie spirit. But because this guy wants to be overzealous, he had to call his superior, all of those things happen. And you see young people carry out these things go about. In the US, I mean, I can walk around with my camo. Nobody will accustomed to go to say, why are you wearing camo? Nobody does that. Why? Because they have a system that functions effectively, and the men and officers and men don't carry their uniforms to go carry out to take the laws, but in their own hands and carry out
True.
criminal acts or impositions. But here in Nigeria, these officers and men have the SSs. Some of them have the SSs. They wear these uniforms, walk into a shop, a business environment, and try to get away with it. So some of these criminals have seen this happen, and it's to some extent, it's more like an innate behavior. People just grew up with this thing in their head to think that it's possible to wear this uniform, you can get away with it. And it does happen. Check when there is fuel scarcity. You will see people with military uniforms coming to break the queue. They short the line to want to get fuel. So if that happens successfully, what will happen with the criminal? The criminals want to do the same thing, isn't it? And that's what it is.
All right, very interesting scenario there. Now, how, in your own words, how prevalent is the issue of unauthorized use of military camouflage in Nigeria, and what are the potential risks or dangers associated with it?
Well, from everything I said, I mean, it's more similar like it. As a country, we must, that's why I said we need to be able to have a properly defined security architecture that covers even, the camos, the accoutrements, a lot of those things. That there's a national security policy that is clearly stating expectations from the officers and men to the public, right? So the students in nursery school, primary school, secondary, university, we all know that this is what is obtainable. Nobody will want to have a guesswork or see this is beautiful, I want to buy it. They will know that this is what is obtainable. This uniform is for these people. So the general public will know when they see such kind of uniform, such camo on anybody, they will presume to know that it's supposed to be only a military officer or a police officer or a security agent that is supposed to have that, because all of them have their camos, they have their utility wares, and those wares have been done at different scenarios. But when you have a situation where you have everybody wearing the same, almost at every point in time, there are uniforms to be worn for ceremonial purposes, for war, for law and order. But they don't keep to their own rules. They wear these things indiscriminately. So it makes it difficult for the public to truly identify and appreciate. So when the crime is going on there with criminals wearing uniforms, the public presumes that it's a military carrying out military operation. Maybe somebody has offended a general. Or you see, and there was a video that was trending on social media, some military officers went to road safety's office and decided to go and harass them, and the road safety officers drove them away, and also, they kind of harassed them again. They went and came back with more military officers and young men and beat up the rest of the officers. You tell me, if such kind of scenario happens, how do you now address indiscriminate use of such camos? So what somebody would do is simply to wear that uniform and go to an office and beat up people under the guise of being a military personnel. So such indiscriminate behaviors, such misbehaviors, such should be punished. No military officer has right to go punish another paramilitary or other military officer. They don't have that right. If there's any infringement, they're supposed to go to the law, report that establishment to the law, and let the law take its course. But they take laws into their hands, and the more they take laws into their hands, the more the general public will find criminals that will utilize such kind of opportunity to carry out their criminal activities. So to apprehend, to call, it's simply for the military to do the right thing. Ensure that the officers and men are well behaved in the public and do not abuse the privilege given. You see all the coups that are taking place. You saw what happened with the coups that took place, that Buhari was involved, IPB were involved, Obasanjo and the rest of them. They wore their military uniforms to carry out those coups against the civilian government. And it was easy for them to do that because they had a military and they had a weapon. That's an abuse of power. Now, if those persons have not been punished, if Buhari, IPB have not been punished for the crimes they committed against the state, it means that this thing cannot be stopped, because they must be punished for carrying out the act that they did in the time that they did those things. Now we call them statesmen, but they're not supposed to be statesmen. We're not encouraging our moral upbringing with such kind of acts being tolerated and embraced and celebrated as statesmen. Those are the factors.
Okay, talking about laws now. Now, in your own opinion, for the ban to be effective, do you think there should be specific laws or regulations in place to prohibit the unauthorized use of military camouflage in Nigeria?
Well, if you go with law because of how fragile our country is, it's a good thing. It means that such laws must be well articulated and properly disseminated. I made mention of the fact that for any law that needs to be fully implemented and effective, it must start from the nursery school. It must be simplified to the understanding of the nursery school pupil to the secondary to the university. Because if you don't get to bring that understanding to the general public from the cradle, you miss it. So as a country, we must have a national security policy that encapsulates everything that has to do with military and policing, types of uniform they need to wear. The general public need to know. And when there's need for change, the general public should be well informed so that criminals will not hide under the guise of pretending, impersonating to become one of those agencies in carry out their criminal activities. The police has changed their uniform colors, over time. The military have also come up with different designs. Now, those things are done without the knowledge of the general public in the way it's supposed to be. We only get to see when it's happening. Yes, sometimes those things are done for security reasons because once there's a mass production of a particular type of camo, it's important for that to be completely disused so as not to allow for that to take place. But there has to be the need for stakeholders to be well briefed. So National Regulatory Agency needs to be working in a pari passu with the security agencies so that they know how to communicate expectations to the general public. The Nigerians are very law-abiding citizens, but when the leadership, when those in positions of authority, those I call the misfit opportunities in position of authority, start misbehaving, it's easy for that to influence the general public or the common man on the street. Ordinarily, we are very law-abiding citizens. Check us out outside of the country. But it's the misbehavior of those we call leaders, those who rule over us, that oftentimes influences the misbehavior of the general public. And so if there are policies or rules or laws, I believe Nigerians will abide, but that such laws should be simplified from cradle to tertiary.
I completely understand. Now, looking at this critically, how do you think the effectiveness to enforce this ban on the unauthorized use of military camouflage in Nigeria, what challenges do you foresee?
Well, it will result to extortion, like we have with the tinted glass with the police. It means that every now and then you'll find even if you're not wearing what is camo, that looks like camo, it takes a little design to change my top now to look like a camo. And somebody will just come and harass me if I don't know my rights. And I will be made to pay money. If I don't want to be embarrassed, I can pay money. So it will actually lead to extortion. And that's why it's important for effective communication to take place. Two, we need to look at the military to see that they hold their people to account. There is a sense for high accountability to take place. If that is not taking place, then there's going to be issues. So the solutions are actually tied in the problem, and until they come to understand that the general public do not just want to do these things. The criminals are taking advantage of the misbehavior of some of the officers and men in the carrying out this operation. If these military men, some of them have not gone out to carry out those Gestapo approach in trying to enforce the law, criminals will not have had the confidence to do that. It's a behavioral disorder. And so we have to address that aspect first. That is high time security officials stop imposing their powers on the general public. Let the law take its course. If somebody has breached the law, apprehend, prosecute. It's that simple. So if people wear camo, you pick them up, and so just I'm giving the answer. If you pick them up, please take them to court. Let the provisions of the law deal with them. But don't take money from them, because once money is taken, then it means people can always look for a way to get more camo to carry that things. Don't forget, we also have the entertainment industry
But
that
Mr.
we
Kelvin,
only from time
sorry
to time
to
use this.
Mr. Calvin, I just want to interject. But have you ever wondered sometimes where do you think these criminal miscreants get their camels from? Have you ever asked
The
that
same way they get,
question?
yeah, the same way they get the ammunition, arms and ammunition.
Truly, I
Let me say this.
sometimes these,
I need to declassify this. Yes,
okay,
yes, go ahead.
sometimes the, okay, sorry, go ahead, please.
Okay. Now, I've been involved in different operations. You can easily buy arms and ammunition from security officials, some of them. Why are they selling? You know why they are selling? Because there is no proper armory management system put in place. Because if there is proper armory management system put in place, it means that it will be difficult for a security official personnel to sell his ammo or to steal to sell. It means because every weapon has its own, what I call its own DNA. There's an identity for every weapon.
Very true.
But you can easily see it in the black market to buy, on the street to buy. If you just press the right button, move the right way, you can see it to buy. Why is it so? It is because there's poor armory management system put in place. Across board. Some of them are better than the others, but from my little research, they are almost like, hey, we need to do better. Because they don't have proper armory system. So if that is taken care of, the same way the Campbells, sometimes also people bring in these things to sell. The contractors who supply the defense, the police, other security agencies, the contractors also are liable. And that is why defense contracting should not be given to every contractor. Defense contracting should have been given to those who have been properly vetted, have been trained to understand the national security importance
Exactly.
before you give the budget. But today, what they do simply is that defense contract is based on either nepotism or cronism. And so they find somebody who can share the money and give the contract. So he goes, he does not even know the importance of what he's actually doing. All he knows is the importance of the money is going, the profit is going to make. So he goes to take the order and brings in the wares. And when they're bringing the wares, they don't even do the proper patent labeling. Because they go to mass production without patent. Ordinarily, you're supposed to have patent labeling for security reasons. For every production, you're supposed to bring 1 million wares of these camos. You're supposed to have to patent them, label them properly, so that as they come in, you can trace distribution and you hold those that have been accountable. Actually, give you a simple management principle in terms of this word, but they won't do it. Even when a few years ago, I actually proposed, armory management solutions. I was not giving the go. What they did was they find a way to they collect money and did one shabby job. I won't mention the agency. And so you have this, even the Camo, I've had the privilege to want to supply before, and I was not given the contracts. But the guy who won the contract was somebody who doesn't have any security background, but because they had access to the person who was in charge at that time to share profit with, he was given the job. He ended up coming to meet me to ask questions. So these are
Really
the
sad.
things.
Really sad. But sometimes we should look at it in the aspect of sometimes these camouflages are stolen by these miscreants, and some of these security agents do not come out to report that their uniforms are stolen. Have you ever heard such a thing before? Like they're traveling and the uniform is stolen and they don't come out to report these things. And that's why I think these miscreants have that upper edge to use it to commit all sorts of menace in the society.
Well, if it says stolen, that's basically giving flimsy excuse. If you have proper distribution and management solution put in place, and nobody can account for their wares, then something is wrong. Because ordinarily, when you distribute, you do what? You monitor. That's what it's supposed to. That's why you need beyond. That's why beyond project management, there's program management, right? You distribute, you monitor. Every officer must account for all that is given to him or her when the time comes in. So there's either a quarterly thing you need to do, they need to be able to account. So once it is missing, if your ammo is missing, you're supposed to report it. If your weapon is missing, you're supposed to report it. Because if you fail to report it, and a criminal used your weapon to carry out crime and is arrested, and you say it was missing, but you didn't report it, you're liable. Culpability comes in. So that's why I see proper education comes in also. Officers and men need to be well educated to understand the dangers of not reporting when it's missing.
Yes.
Stolen is only but an excuse. It's oftentimes connivance that is under the guise of being stolen. When these defense contractors bring these wares to the warehouse, they are not immediately distributed as projected and projected for. They will say that they need 2 million of these wares so that every officer can get two for utility purposes so as to be able to interchange. But guess what? When the supply is now made, instead of distributing according to the projected budgeting provision, they will not begin to look for way to distribute only to a few persons and find a way to want to give back the remaining to the contractor to get their money back so that the contractor will come and supply again because nobody keeps record of distribution after supply. There's supposed to be records after supply that you bring this number of items, you distribute this material to different barracks and to different personnel, and they all sign to collect. You bring that data back. So others who sign to collect show proof of collection. That's why you have auditing. Show proof of collection. Now you now take that and go back to your store. You now know that you brought in 1 million pieces of particular camo, but you have distributed 600,000, remaining 400,000. So this 400,000, you now ask a simple question: how do we protect this 400,000 so it doesn't get to the house of motion? So you put it in a position where it will be difficult for anybody to have access to it. So you have personnel manning that location where it is, and it also has a vote, a record vote that you can keep record of what goes and what comes in. So, but when you don't do that, you bring in these things, you leave it somewhere, you now say they have been stolen. Meanwhile, if they've not been stolen, you return them back to the contractor. The contractor will later bring them again to resell to the government or find a way to sell it to another establishment and make another extra money. So it's that criminality that is fueling the type of stealing they claim that has happened that they did not report. Because if it was stolen, it would have been reported. Then if you also have the patent labeling that I mentioned earlier, you will now know that if this is stolen, if you go to the market, you can look at the patent label and know if it's your own product or not your own product. You can now apprehend whoever that is selling to tell you where he bought it. You go to the source. Then we cannot see the level of collaboration and whatever that are taking place in social criminality. It's very, very easy to do patent tracing. If every security person will understand his duty, and I just explained something very deep right now on air, and it's yeah, and I'm not being paid for it. But it's just simple. If they want more, they call. We can give them insight on how to go about it. If they don't want to do the right thing, but they say the truth is that they don't want to do the right thing because loopholes are created for criminality to continue and in the course of that, it's like when you have sugar exposed, ants will come gather it. But in the course of ants gathering it, you know what happens? You find flies who sometimes also come around to see what's going to happen. You find other things. If you find flies, you find lizards who will come in, or worm geckos who will come in to also want to come and feed on whatever is going on. So when the criminals in government carry out their criminal activities, the criminals outside of government sees that and sees the opportunity to also want to steal. And they come to steal. So when they steal, they go sell to those who also have this nefarious mindset to carry out bigger crimes. They wear the uniforms, go for operations in the night. They don't even know how to speak good English. They don't even dress properly. They are from head to toe. The way they are dressed, they will tell you they don't understand simple military drills. But you see, the general public do not also understand all of these things. So they just assume that these are military people because their behavior shows how military people behave sometimes when they take the law to their own hands. The case that happened in the young girl that was killed in much that the kidnapping case that happened in Abuja, military people came in courts, but they were not military. Criminals in military camels. So the fire brigade approach is not the best approach. Let's clearly plan and carry out this project and have a right program to monitor through it as the phases go.
said there, Mr. Kelvin. Okay, let's quickly go on a very short break and the program continues shortly. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Inside Today on Global Television, and we're looking at the unauthorized use of military camouflage. Now, of course, we know it's a means for an individual or some of these miscreants in society to deceive the public and undermine trust in security institutions, leading to public panic, misinformation, or unauthorized interventions in security matters. And I am not alone on the program. This is the part 2 of the program. I am joined by Prince Kelvin Fineface, and he's here. Prince, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, Prince, you're welcome back to the part 2 segment of the program Insight Today. Thank you for being a part of it so far. Now, I want to ask another question. Now, how can the public be educated or made aware of the restrictions on military camouflage used in Nigeria to prevent this unauthorized usage by some criminal elements who go about causing mayhem in the society?
First, I think the military and other security agencies that uses camos should be able to educate the public through their security education sensitization programs, uh, the the importance of the camos, the dangers of using it, and why they need to also report. Now, the question is, how do you now identify who is truly a military officer? How can the
Very
general
true.
public, a citizen, how would they know this is a military officer? If it says, the military says nobody should wear camo anymore, and they see somebody with camo, how would they identify that person? So it's now in the place of the military to now educate the public what to expect of a military officer, where they should wear such kind of uniforms. Because see, you're supposed to have your different engagement uniforms. What you are to use for warfare shouldn't be what you should use for civil engagements. So, but when you find these uniforms being used, just like those in secondary school, from Monday to Wednesday, they wear their normal uniforms. They wear their PE uniform on Thursday or Friday, depending on the school. So when you indicate how officers and men dress in public for different occasions, and they let the public know what they should expect, it simply means that the public would not look out for such. So when the public sees someone with a military camo in the night knocking at his door, we want to know who the person is. More so, neighborhood security will also be helpful. I'm happy to some degree that the president has given approval to the state governors to go ahead and forming up their state policing thing. But unfortunately, sadly so, this has been going on in so many states. They already have their state police. They already have some kind of state police that they operate in under the guise of either vigilante or ISPA or whatever name you want to call it. They have all those different arms of, they use to carry out their operations. All of those agencies of government in the state at the state level are also desirous to want to use camos because there's this prestige it comes with. It gives you this air of
Exactly.
superiority. So that's why people want to use it. Why does it give it this air of security? Because the military has shown that in the past they used those camos to carry out those activities that made them look superior because that's why they could go to road safety office and beat up road safety personnel. Who does that? In which same country does that happen? Or they go and beat up police officers and men. Where does that happen? Like it happened in Delta States and nobody was punished. Or they go and raid a community, finish the community, entire community, OD. So such has created this desire for people to want to belong to this group of persons that are superior to other groups in the society. So if that is not curtailed, it will be difficult to truly manage this. Then also they need to begin to do what I would call citizenship engagements. From time to time, at different locations, different town hall meetings, engage the citizens and see that they can help with the information. So when the citizen get to see a member of their own clan wearing camo that they know, or purchases camo that they know is not part of the military, they can easily report such individuals or such groups. So there has to be that window for this information, either anonymously or whatever. You want to create that window, for people to be able to report. That's why it is engagement. Then thirdly, the punishment and the reward must be clearly stated and well spelled out. So the law should understand what it's supposed to be fighting. So when someone is apprehended, for instance, with Campbell, you go to court. If the provisions are not well stated, it means it becomes a futile effort. Once the person goes to court and is not prosecuted accordingly and there's no conviction, more Nigerians will misbehave in that order. So the law should be clearly stated and the punishment should be meted in that way. So it means if the president's son, for instance, is caught with camo, it should not be given some form of leniency. No, it should be punished according to the law. If it's supposed to serve 6 months with community service, that should be done. If there's no option for fine, there's no option for fine. But when you do selective judgments, then it becomes a problem for that to be curtailed.
All right. Well said there. Now, looking at this, we all know that some military, when it comes to the army, just giving an instance, and the police, they are always at loggerheads. Well, you hear today that the police have issues with the army and the army vis-a-vis. Now, do you think there are coordinations between the military, law enforcement agencies, and other relevant authorities to enforce a ban on the unauthorized use of military camouflage effectively?
It'll be difficult, when you have it's a recruitment problem. When you have a system that is not clearly defined on how they can synergistically work together. Let me tell you what's happening. There's what I call the class status syndrome that is bedeviling all of the security agencies. The military, the army believes that they are superior because over the years they've been the ones involved in most of the coups. So they believe they are superior. The
True.
police believe they are superior to the SSS, to the TSS. They are superior to road safety. There was a time they were meshed together, they didn't accept it. The civil defense believe they are superior to the road safety or the VIO. So all of them have this class status syndrome, finding ways to want to be superior to those that they believe they have capacity beyond them. So it's going to be a challenge. That's why you find that a police officer will not be able to successfully apprehend and prosecute a military person, except of course the military authority backs such action. So there's a channel of communication that is established by both establishments. The police need to write to the military indicating the person of interest. Because so when like the case of armed robbery that took place, they have the military, private and a few other ranks. You have the police. When they were picked up, it was because they were picked up not with their uniforms. In quote, it was in the cause of armed robbery, and through investigation that these things were done. They got to reveal, oh, these are the persons. So they had to reveal it. But you notice when these persons were displayed to the public, you could see the air of how this announcement was actually made. And in another case, the same thing happens. So if a police officer is still wearing a camo of the military, I bet you he's going to be beaten black and blue, and but will not be prosecuted. Will not be prosecuted. Even if it's although there's supposed to be that camaraderie spirit, because it's a police officer. So maybe it was based on the operation or was something that the way that it would have been excused and made not to continue. But if the law is there that says, apart from the army or the quote military, if they don't put police in the law, that's not for military and police and other paramilitary, then they should not, even if it's esprit de corps. And in the military, it has to be clearly defined. Is it just the army, the navy, or the air force? Just as the law has to be clearly stated.
Yeah.
So in details, how this should be. So it's not a generic statement or an ambiguous statement that should be imputed in that law, but it should clearly state how. And that also comes in the design. When you make a law, it also comes in the detailing of the design must be clearly stated in that. So are they ready for that? Good question. I think I leave that with them to answer. If they be ready to go in details, because you're supposed to be changing this from time to time. So all that needs to be clearly stated. But because not all camels are all camels. I need to state
Truly.
this now. The designs is peculiar to the establishments.
All right, Mr. Kelvin, I want to just add to what you just said. Now, how can security forces distinguish between legitimate military personnel using the camouflage and unauthorized users to prevent confusion and misuse?
Beautiful. Simple by applying your warrant card. Something of interest as a security officer, either DSS, police, civil defense, road safety, VIO, customs, immigrations. Uh, as long as you have your warrant card
Okay.
and there's something of interest, you're supposed to confront, investigate, to interview. So when in the course of interview, if the person do not give you that um, that response, then if you know you're in a position that you cannot apprehend, you want to find help, because you might meet someone who is dressed in military camo and is not a military officer or
Very true.
personnel,
Very
and
true.
is well armed. You cannot go as a police officer without arms and believe that because you're wearing police uniform or you have an ID card, then that automatically shows that yes, you can. No, it's not possible. Your safety comes first. Your life is important. You have to find help and report the matter, or find a way to dock and just do surveillance. Then get enough information and go back to your office and report. We saw XYZ group. Don't go and confront. In those days, psychological security was very effective because the British did a lot of usurpation and suppression. They oppressed us so badly They were so wicked and mean that it was easy for a a British police officer with one stick to guard 1,000 people and provide law and order. Because if you touch that one police officer, they will come with their gunpowder and their cannon and destroy the entire community. So people grew with that fear. So when they see a police officer on the road, they want to avoid him at all costs. But today, psychological security does not work effectively anymore. So the physical security is important. How well armed and equipped the
Exactly.
officer is determines the level of deterrence he can enjoy or the level of respect he can enjoy. It's that simple. So we have to look at how. That's why I said we need to be able to have a national security template that clearly state. They tried to do one some time ago with the old NSA, the one that died as Zazi tried it,
It's okay.
the last one that Mukono also said they're doing, but I've not seen a document that is for the public to use as a basis with which to understand how to go about it. The entertainment industry is supposed to have taken that document also, write as scripts, and make movies and short skits and dramas to educate and entertain the general public so they know what to do. So there's a whole gamut of responsibilities that have been not looked into, and that's resulting to all of that we're having. So it will be difficult for a security officer to successfully stop the use of camo when you can't even tell who is who and you can't differentiate the difference. Except, of course, in a comfortable zone, you can ask the question, sorry, identify yourself if you're wearing this camo. And two, if you're wearing camo on the street of Abuja or any other street in the market, is that where you're supposed to have your camo? By right, your camo is supposed to be used somewhere else. So if you find yourself in a
Exactly.
location where
Exactly.
you're not supposed to use a camo, it's also a thing of concern. The law should also take its course in that order, if it is clearly stated so.
Very
But if it's not clearly
important.
stated so, then of course it becomes more like all commerce affairs. So it's going to be really challenging.
Now, one last question before I let you go. Now, how can the community, there's a saying that goes, it takes you and I to make a difference, to make a better nation, a better country, better Nigeria. Now, how can the community contribute to efforts to combat the unauthorized use of military camo and ensure compliance with regulations in Nigeria?
If the community is well informed, unfortunately, we don't have county policing. I'm hoping that with the current move by the president and the state governors, they should be able to articulate community policing effectively so we can have counties. The county must look more like the communities, right? So in my village, for instance, in my kingdom, I should be able to know that you have a security setup that is recognized by the law, that is aiding and helping the Nigerian security architecture, maybe the DSS, the police, the army, and the rest of them, by way of giving information, also helping minor apprehension and all of those things. Now, if that is not done, how will someone from the community have the capacity to not become a warrant card holder? Is a question that needs to be answered. But for me, the suggestion is simple. Let us devolve, our policing structure and allow for, because these things are there. Every community has some form of security setup. All we need to do is to give
Exactly.
that recognition. Is to give that recognition and find a way to support them, either through community funding or through trust funds, so that they have a sense of belonging and a sense of duty. Then the people in those communities will now know these persons that have already been mandated with this responsibility will now learn to avoid them. In the age grade system, in most of the communities, like my place, you find out the age grade system also serve as a type of a policing structure. When you misbehave, your age grade members will come and meet you and deal with you according to the provisions of the international law,
Oh, wow.
right? So we can implement same principle, use the age grade system, or depending on the locality, whatever system that is there to checkmate excesses and see that there's recognition. You give recognition, you give a sense of duty. Once you give recognition, a sense of duty, and once a sense of duty, then there will be compliance. But if there's no sense of duty, there's no recognition, there can't be compliance.
All
Because if
right.
people will respect those that you want them to respect, want to be sure they have authority to function the way you expect them to respond to. If they don't have authority,
Exactly.
so if you go to the street of Abuja, for instance, now, on the street of Abuja, you'll find out that at most junctions, you find miscreants, conducting traffic. Miscreants have become traffic warden. Why? Because when they do that, people will give them money. So they do it and expect that they will get some pay. But they are traffic wardens responsible for those places. But you don't see them. Sometimes you see somebody who is mentally unstable directing traffic and people are obeying. But in some cases, some persons don't respect them. Why? Because they don't have authority to operate. So they just disobey the traffic guys and just move on because they don't have authority. But if that person
Exactly.
is wearing uniform, now let me give you this instance. You notice the road marshals, because they have been recognized by road safety, they have a sense of duty that the public comply to because they've been recognized. So the same principle can be applied in community policing. Identify those who have shown interest. Then we can also look at how to be able to recruit the right people. Our recruitment process is part of our biggest problem in security policing and our community policing and security architecture in Nigeria. We have
Exactly.
very faulty recruitment process. They employ every criminal into the police or the TSS or the military, and it doesn't take them long to expose themselves and start misbehaving because their whole sole aim is to go commit crime. They want to become military officers so they can go and carry out crime, or police so they can have access to gun to go and carry out the crimes they want to carry out. It's because of the poor recruitment process, poor vetting after recruitment. Why? Because most recruitments are done for political interest. This quota system, the senior president have allocation for recruitment, the president have allocation for recruitment, all of the public office holders all have allocation for recruitment. So if the TSS wants to employ, for instance, all of those who occupy key positions will all have candidates to bring. They can bring their own thugs to join the establishments. And
Prince,
because they are political office holders, they cannot question, they cannot do proper vetting, they must allow that to go for political reasons. Such person get into those establishments and start committing havoc.
all right. All right.
Or
Thank
they
you
start using
so.
them to carry out their own political interests. So
All
because
right.
I
Thank.
employed you now, you have to go and beat up people or harass people harass my political opponents. I mean, that's what it is. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Prince Kelvin Fineface. I appreciate you being on the program on Insight today, talking about the unauthorization of military camouflage in Nigeria. I am so grateful for having you on the program. And
My
Prince
pleasure.
Kelvin Fineface, he is a security and energy consultant, a public good advocate. Thank you so much for being a part of the program.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you. Now, the ban on unauthorized use of military camouflage in Nigeria is crucial for upholding security, maintaining military integrity, and safeguarding public trust in security institutions. Enforcing this ban requires a coordinated effort between the government, security agents, and the public to prevent misuse and uphold the rule of law. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for being a part of the program. Bye-bye.